Who's next? Alyssa, a 15-year-old from Holding Ford, Minnesota. Is that right? Nice to have you on the program.
Hi, Rush. Thanks. I was going to tell you about a conference about cap and trade that I went to in St. Cloud State, Minnesota.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute here, Alyssa. You're 15. Yeah. How did you end up going to a cap and trade seminar?
My dad got a couple of emails about it from Michelle Bachmann, and I really wanted to learn more about it.
Oh, okay. So Michelle Bachmann is your congresswoman?
Yeah.
And so she did a town meeting seminar on cap and trade.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So your dad he wanted to know about it, he took you.
He took me and one of his friends.
All right. So did you know what cap and trade was before the seminar?
A little bit. Do
you know more about it now?
Yeah.
And?
I was going to tell you about the liberals that were there.
Oh, good. I'd love to. I love hearing about liberals at seminars.
They were actually really rude there, and they had to be talked to by security a couple of times. And
you mean they were disrupting Congresswoman Bachmann?
And Chris Horner. Chris Horner was the one that was talking about it.
Okay, so the liberals, these are probably community organizers like Acorn, the same kind of people that are the pirates.
Yeah. And they were screaming questions, and we got these cards that we had to fill out questions on, and instead of that, they were screaming them out, and then they asked about green jobs, and he asked them to name a couple of them, and they just shut up after that.
Yeah, there's no, a green job is a myth. What is a green job? They didn't have an answer for it.
No.
What is a green job? How much you make doing a green job?
There is no such thing.
A landscaper is a green job. You work around things that are green. Grass, weeds, flowers, plants, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you got to see this. Was this the first time that you had seen in person this kind of rude behavior from liberals?
Yeah.
How did it make you feel?
I was actually really mad at them.
Were you scared at all?
Not really.
You were just mad?
Yeah.
Did they try to shut down the seminar? Did they succeed in doing that?
No.
How many of them were there?
I think there were about 2,000 people there, and there were probably maybe 20 of them.
20 agitators, 20 community organizers showed up.
Yeah.
To try to disrupt things, but they failed, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad. Now, you knew that this was liberal behavior before you went there. You just had never seen it in person?
Yeah.
Seeing it in person has a much more powerful impact than just watching it on television. Because watching television, you're not really there, and you see it on TV so much it doesn't have any impact. But when you're there, like you were, profound impact. Well, that is pretty much standard operating behavior for American. Well, it is. Certainly now, people think I'm going to be misleading this young girl, but I'm not. They're constantly mad. They're constantly angry. They don't want to debate whatever's being debated. They want to shut down any discussion of a position that's not theirs because they're afraid that the 2,000 people there were going to be persuaded to agree with a concept that they don't agree with. So rather than debate it, they wanted to shut it down. This is how they operate. It's intimidation. These people were probably paid, too.
Most of them looked like they were college students.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just, saving up money for the next party, kegger, whatever. Well, good. I'm glad. How did it end up? I mean, would the seminar end up being okay, and you learned more about it than you knew before you went in?
Yeah, I learned a lot, actually.
Is there one thing that stood out that you learned?
That actually, there's the global cooling that, they talked about, a couple of years back, when my dad was in school. That, and there was global warming that was way worse before, the Earth, fluctuates in temperature.
Yeah. That's exactly, by the way, your dad was in school more than 2 years ago, I hope.
Yeah.
But because you're talking about the covers of Newsweek and Time Magazine back in 1979 they were talking about the coming ice age back then. But here, I want to give you, Alyssa, a closing thought. that will help you to understand liberals even more. Let's take the global warming debate. And this has to do with what I call the vanity and the total lack of humility that these people have. The Earth is billions of years old. The Earth, as you learned, has gone through cycles of heat and cooling, warmth and freezing that are beyond the ability of any earthly creature, human or otherwise, to influence. We can influence our environment. We have air conditioning and heat, but we can't change the climate. We never have been able to. But for some reason, throughout all these billions of years, the last 20 or 30, which are so microscopic, a grain of sand does not represent the size of the last 30 years in just 100 years. I mean, we are so infinitesimal a part of this planet. Yet the last 30 years, all of these people, Alyssa, say that everything that is now is normal. The level of ice, the temperatures, average temperatures around the world, the amount of rainfall, cloud cover, everything now is what is normal. And any variation is a disaster. Any variation or trend toward a variation is a disaster. Now, what kind of arrogance does it require for a living human being to think that in the full breadth and scope of world history, that their little irrelevant period of time on it is the way it's always been or is even optimum and the best? The world is constantly moving and changing. Your dad someday is going to take you to the Grand Canyon. Your dad someday is going to take you to Arizona, and you're going to see big mountains, and you're going to learn. You're going to see lines and scales all up and down the sides of the canyons and scales, and you're going to be told that what you're looking at used to be thousands of feet underwater. And what you're looking at are sediment lines. And you look up, and it's thousands of feet in the air, hundreds of feet in the air. What is underwater? And then you're going to ask yourself, how in the world could I have seen to it that all these rocks that were underwater somehow became mountains on the surface? You couldn't have done it. It's just happened. And that's how the climate operates. You got a great head start thanks to your dad taking you to this thing. It's great that he did. Quick time. Alyssa, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. I keep